Okay, should be live now. Okay, so thanks for joining again, everyone, for our monthly query research progress update. It's on Monday this time because tomorrow we have the No Steam Day. So yeah, Monday also works, of course. All right, so high-level goal still exactly the same as every time we had this one before. So we want to hide away the complexities of reading and writing for application developers that want to interact with decentralized knowledge graphs on the web. And for this, we investigate querying algorithms. So these are still the same people working on this topic. The format still the same. 3 slides per researcher, aim at around 5 minutes in total. So first we present the high-level goal, then accomplishments of the last month and targets for the next month, and then a short discussion. Yeah, so that's the format. So the first person who can talk is Brian. Over to you, Brian.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, but a bit quiet.
Okay, I'm going to get closer to the mic. So yes, my high-level goal is to optimize decentralized querying using explicit data publication structure, which means that often we want to exploit the fact that often data providers put a lot of thought into the way that they are posting their data. So they can have multiple structure, your folders and things like that. And sometimes they have summaries to help them for their data quality, or sometimes they want to create complex data model, for instance, in the use case of bioscience and those and other type of use case like that. So we can go to the next slide. So this month I've worked on finishing my algorithm to convert shapes into a summary. So this summary is going to be used to optimize federated query using the algorithm fedup, at least a modified version that I'm making that's going to exploit those shapes. I also finished my first implementation of this algorithm using my shapes. I do not support left joint at the moment, and I'm not fully sure if I'm going to support it, at least in the context of the paper, because from what I saw, maybe I'm wrong, I need to check the benchmark. It seems like there is no queries in the benchmark that have left joint. And since my contribution is more about using shapes and yeah, using the same algorithm with shape and also the other optimization that we can do with shape, maybe I can get away with not having this thing implemented. And I've also not tested it with some benchmark endpoints, so with some Sparkle endpoints. So I just did some unit tests with what I thought is some decent situations.
Yeah, I also don't think that full Sparkle support is necessary. It would be nice, but yeah, it's not the core of your work, of course, to implement everything. But I was wondering, does the original FedUp approach support left join?
Yes, it supports left join, and it also supports filters. I mean, it supports filters in theory, but in practice, it cannot really do it because their summary is not rich enough to be able to support a filter. And in my case, the filter support will also be different than a Sparkle filter because I'm going to solve a satisfiability problem too. But apart from that, I think they support every. I mean, I don't think they support like values, maybe not bind, those kind of stuff, but they support, classical, quote unquote, classical Sparkle queries that you are kind of used to.
Yeah, but maybe since FedUp supports left join, maybe you should support it as well,
That's
because
because in the paper, I would probably not, I will not rewrite the algorithm. And if in the benchmark there is no queries with left join, and it's basically doing the same thing that they did, I thought that the implementation effort was not necessary since no one going to see it.
yeah. Well, yeah, maybe let's discuss maybe tomorrow. Yeah, let's continue discussing that tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. So the last thing I did is that I've started to set up my benchmark. So the large RDF bench, I feel like it's, I mean, it's obviously documented, but it's not so easy to spun it up. And also the results are into a custom format and all those kind of hurdle. So I just sort of remade it to make it easy for me to be able to test it and to validate my solutions. And yeah, that's what I did. We can go to the next slide. So my objective for the next month is just to focus on the paper, so focus on finishing the benchmark, running the queries, make sure that everything works. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. And that's it for me.
So how far are you along with setting up the benchmark? What has been done exactly and what still needs to be done?
Okay, what has been done is now I have all my endpoint, I have all the results of my queries in the official format. I started to generate the shape with Checkser, but it's not fully done. And that's pretty much it. Because I will reuse the tool that I already made to run benchmark and things. So it's not going to be super complicated. Because I mean, just the thing that I foresee is that there's going to be some bug that I'm going to fix. So it's mostly that I foresee. That's why this is the only objective for the month.
Yeah. So yeah, before you run the big experiment, might be good to try out some manual queries on a smaller scale locally, just to do some debugging.
Yeah, this is what I'm planning to. This is what I'm doing. So basically, I'm building the whole infrastructure, and at the same time, I make it so I can test in a smaller scale some queries and things like that. But with the picture that I need to have this infrastructure that need to be reusable for other people who want to, validate my result, or if I want to rerun the benchmark. So it's sort of the mindset that I have.
Yeah, okay, very good. Any other questions for Brian? No, okay, good. Then we can continue to the next person on the list, and that is Ruben.
All right, how's the microphone? Is it okay?
It's not super, but it will be fine.
Okay, well, so yeah, what my high-level goal is unchanged. I want to optimize link traversal queries using the fact that we have client-side engines that serve for a single instance, a single user. And we can use this to further optimize our queries than just assuming independence within these queries. So what I did this month, or what I worked on, is I needed to set up new experiments for caching. I did previous experiments and they kind of showed weird results, especially when you sort of disable bind join. The results become somewhat muddled because the bind join works really well in some cases and doesn't really work well in other cases. So I made these experiments to work with bind join by redoing the whole caching setup or algorithms. And then I found that some queries, it seems that caching doesn't really help that much. And I sort of found out why, because if you use a sort of better join plan or better join algorithm, the caching does increase performance. So it seems that when you do a request for a document, while you wait, the join algorithm continues and can do some work. And so if you instantly do the request and get it back, there's no real performance gain because most of the actual time you spend is doing join execution. So that is pretty interesting. So yeah, to test this or validate this, I want to use the clever centralized join plans in link traversal to see if I can sort of really show this. So that's what I did. I also worked on derived resources in SolidBench. I had some issues with the benchmark because it seemed to be working, but then sort of community solid server had some weird behavior when using SolidBench with derived resources, and haven't been able to figure out what exactly I need to do to fix this, but I will. And then finally, I also finished and submitted a position paper on this hybrid link traversal, or concretely the derived resource query. So next month, will be for the implementing side, I'll need to implement derived resource querying. I'm not sure if the entire thing is going to be done next month, but at least I'll get started on it. And the first task will be to fix SolidBench, of course, and then be able to determine which derived resource to use for which query and which derived resources are available, and then integrate this into our plan when we have sort of identified what we can use. And I also want to finish the paper on this query sequence benchmark with the caching. I still need to analyze the results of the newer experiment. I think they just finished today. And then the joint ordering based experiments using the clever query plan, and then sort of tie this all together, hopefully with good results, something that I can actually talk about and that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Any questions for Ruben? Yes, Brian.
Yes. What I was wondering is that, yeah, you talked about how with the caching, there is some queries where you don't get some performance gain, and you said that maybe it's because that you can basically perform part of the join plan while you're waiting. What I was wondering is this finding really, is it more Communica related? Is it really about the infrastructure of Communica, or you think it's kind of a more generalized discovery about query planning in linked traversal?
I haven't really thought about it that deeply, but I can imagine that if you do it in parallel, most of the time you spend is doing CPU work. So I don't think it matters that you wait for I/O in another thread or the same thread where the CPU work is done. So it might just be a general thing, but I can't say without testing it on different architectures for sure.
Okay. Do you have a sort of a plan to explain or test this finding, or because I also don't fully understand. I guess I would need to talk to you after the meeting at some point to really understand. So.
Yeah, I mean, for Communica, the plan is to use known good query plans and then show the performance gain on a good query plan and a bad query plan for artificially simulated hit rates. But in a general case, it's difficult because we don't have something to test the alternative, which is separate processes.
Okay. Thank you.
So have you identified any queries that produce a significantly different query plan?
I'm not sure yet. I've looked at the plans, but I'll have to also look at the Communica plans. Mm-hmm. It is a bit difficult. I'm not too sure how well the experiment will go because I'm not sure how we can translate a clever binary multi-join to, for example, a bind join. So I need to find somewhere where there's just I need to identify where the plan is efficient by using a bind join, for example.
No. Well, yeah, in any case, if you would find any significantly different query plans that would therefore speed up Communica, definitely let me know. Because this is not directly relevant to your research here, but if those cases would occur, then we probably need a better query planner in general.
Oh yeah, I definitely found some deficiencies in the linked traversal query planning. Yeah, but I mean in non-linked traversal. Non-linked because traversal. in linked traversal, yeah, there's definitely a lot we can do, but the difficulty is finding the cardinalities and so on. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah, we'll look into it. Okay, cool. Maybe one last question from me regarding the difficulties you had with the SolidBench experiment. Which types of problems did you run into for the at the community Solid server? Well, first, the standard SolidBench doesn't work with derived resources because derived resources can be text files or RQ files, and SolidBench fixes to only NQ or in quotes. Then I tried to use the default setup of Community Solid Server, but that slowed it down a lot, and I wasn't sure why. So that's what I'm trying to investigate. Like, why is it slowing down when you do like extension-based mapping? How can we sort of get the performance back of fixed mapping while also retaining flexibility enough for the right resources?
And are you using the same version of the Community Solid Server? Okay.
Yep.
So it must be related to that.
I think so.
Okay. Any final questions for Ruben? No. Okay. Then we move on to Elias.
Yep. So my high-level goal remains unchanged since the last and multiple previous monthly query meetings. So I'm developing a personal genomic data storage approach that basically allows us to do cool things over that genomic data. Next slide. So what I worked on, I completed a lot of things, and I've started a lot of things over the past month. So the first thing is that I will be presenting Solid Cockpit, which is basically a user interaction layer over Solid Pod data. I've been refactoring it because I will be presenting it at the Solid Symposium, and then I submitted it to ESWC as a demo as well. So I still haven't heard about the demo, but I will be going to the Solid Symposium. So I haven't worked on it in quite a while, at least 6 months. So I'm just going back and addressing some of the comments and things that I got from reviewers, as well as just making it look nice and pretty so it's ready for these sort of public presentations of it, so that hopefully people will use it and then provide more feedback, and it can kind of grow in that way. I've also made some headway on kind of taking all of this data that we have from federated query survey that we've been performing for a while, and kind of making sense of it and thinking about how we want to frame it. We're now targeting an in-use paper at ISWC, and we're working with colleagues from the Swiss Institute of Bioinformatics to give a somewhat chronological story of how we tried federation over real-world endpoints using real-world queries. And it used to work, but now it doesn't because of very strict rate limits imposed by the endpoints, and that kind of coincides with the growth of large language model crawlers. So we'll have an interesting paper, I think, and it's still in development, but we're targeting ESWC for that. So that's going to be most of my work this next month. Then I attended the Semantic Web Applications and Technologies for Healthcare and Life Sciences conference. That was great. Met some great people and learned some things. Got to see people that I haven't seen in a while. But yeah, that was nice. And then submitted a paper about conversion of VCF to RDF to the European Conference on Computational Biology. Yeah, that was at the beginning of the month, so we will see about the results sometime in April. So fingers crossed on that. And then, yeah, while at SWAT for HCLS, there is a day that's called the Hackathon Day, where these interdisciplinary people come together and sort of just work on quick little projects that may grow into bigger projects in the future. But I worked with someone from the University of Amsterdam, and we made a quick little tool that allows users to load genomic data into a personal machine relational database. We use DuckDB, and then visualize it using a virtual file system, because this is the problem for lots of researchers. They want to look at the data, but yeah, usually it's compressed. And so we used a relational database to solve those problems. And we're working on seeing what we want to do with this quick little tool that we hacked together. But yeah, that's what I worked on in the last month. And in the next month, basically, I alluded to all of these things in past month because mostly it's continuation work. But I want to finish Solid Cockpit. There are some improvements on the tool that I submitted to ECCB that I would like to look at exploring, because right now a big problem is that we get a lot of semantic inflation when we convert this text-based file into an RDF representation. So right now we use just basic compression mechanisms like Brotli and gzip compression. We also use HDT so that the triples remain queryable, but HDT is not a very good solution, at least in its current implemented form, because these files are really big and HDT struggles when the files get big to just generate the HDT files. So we're going to be looking at other solutions to do this compression, particularly ones that allow for the compressed data to be mutable, meaning if we want to insert some data, then that can be done without having to decompress and then recompress. So I'll be looking at that this month if I have some time. And then, yeah, finishing writing for ISWC. And then I have a meeting with the colleague that we made this relational database viewing tool this week, and we're going to discuss what we want to do with it. So that is all for me.
Cool. Yeah, I suspect we should have news about ESWC demo, yeah, tomorrow or the day after.
Cool.
Any questions for Elias?
I have a very basic question. At the beginning, you mentioned you were applying your approach to genomic data, right?
Yes.
So what is the dataset you're using there? And did I ever mention to you what is happening in the project called MetabolinkAI? So 2 questions. What is the dataset you're using? And
Yeah, so the data set that I'm specifically working with is called VCF data, or variant call format genomic data. It's the easiest to work with out of the genomic data formats because it's the most distilled and smallest representation of an individual's genomic content. I have not heard about the project that you mentioned, but
I can mention it at the end. If we have time, I can mention what's going on and what are the different data sets that exist in this project. Okay, just in case. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Brian, you have a question?
Yes. I was curious of why do you use the DocDB? Is there something? Yeah, why? Because I don't really know about it.
So the idea is that when you have a file that is many gigabytes in size, it's not very easy to work with it from like a user interface perspective or to store it efficiently on like a local disk. And so if we could load that data from this file into a relational database, the storing be more efficient because it's in a database and not just in a file. And B, you'll be able to look at different views over that database or over the data in the database in an intuitive way, much more easily than in a file format. But most bioinformaticians are not familiar with databases and how to execute Sparkle queries to get what kind of data you want, or I mean SQL queries, excuse me. So this solution virtualizes the file from the relational database representation so that the individual can still see it in like a CSV, but it's not an actual file that exists on disk, therefore freeing up memory constraints when you have very, very big files to work with.
But because I guess what I don't understand is that we are already developing databases with Sparkle. So why not just using, I don't know, Clever or whatever Sparkle endpoint? Why are we going into a relational a SQL database? Basically?
Because those don't interface with virtual file systems at the moment, like the applications like Fuse, or if there are.
So it's really the virtual file system
Yeah,
One in
that's the
the
novel part.
.db that you are very interested in.
Yeah, and it's just a side project. It wasn't really super connected to my PhD, but I thought it was cool, so I thought I would share it.
Okay, I understand better now. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Unless there are any other questions, let's move on to Jitse.
Right. My high-level goal is optimizing write performance in decentralized personal data ecosystems. So that's that. Okay. I worked on Edwin's set-based CRDTs. So we already did the implementation was already there, and I wrote a poster paper for ECWE, and also created the poster because the call for paper asked for that, so it took up quite some time. I suggested that it would be better if you already have a poster, and then I listened. Then the demo on Dracula and Communicat combined modularity. I don't know when I created the website itself for this demonstration, but yeah, it was done. And then wrote a paper about that. Then I also looked into the SPARQL view rewriting this month, focusing on rewriting some more of the path expressions. So now every path expression except for the star and plus paths are rewritten into basic triple patterns on which we can then perform the rewriting algorithm on the triple pattern base. Then I also looked into testing the approach and testing in it being unit tests on like small data sets, integration tests on small data sets, and trying to look at what benchmark might be suitable for this work. And then I had some more blank note frustrations regarding this work. So I implemented, also this month, I implemented the column functions for the rewriting. And then, I needed to look at the B nodes. And I think we just will not support blank notes or not without blank notes columnization first. So that's that. And then I also looked into some of the agentic coding stuff that we've been exploring. And then I found recently like this GitHub runners that they were nice, but seems like they got some more strict limitations. And now I found that you can create something called like a developer container and then input your coding agent in that development container and then just let it execute whatever it wants to execute. And then since it's in that development container, it doesn't have access to your full machine. So the results were promising. Okay, that's what I worked on. Then my next targets are, I think this month I need to look a bit at the Dracula and Communicat maintenance, so just some engineering and fixing some bugs and stuff. I want to look into Communicat Cloudflare workers, which is something that I started last week as well. Then I need to finish the SPARQL view rewriting and benchmark setup. Actually, Maxime from the Vienna team that I visited last year will also come, so we will write a paper. And then some presentation preparation probably also for like for ESWC. And then apparently we expect the results for the ESWC demos to be out soon, so maybe this also comes on the plate. And that's it.
For the rest of the team, did we already mention that Maxime is joining for a few weeks? Hasn't already been shared, that news? No?
You just sort of talked a lot about it, but never with an official announcement, I think.
Yeah, but his travel funding has now recently been officially approved, so he is definitely coming. Jitse, what are the dates again?
Yes, I think So he'll be here from the 13th up until and including the 23rd. So I think he's not here the 24th. So it's like 2 weeks, but not the last Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. That will be nice. I was going to ask something, but I forgot what. Yeah, for the agentic coding, definitely show us the dev containers, maybe in one of the stand-ups.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious to see what you did there.
Yes.
Because with the coding agent on GitHub that is getting more stricter, that's quite annoying. I hope they will revert some of their changes, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll show you.
Any questions for Jitse? No. Okay. Very good. Then I guess we're done for today. Yes. So the next progress update is in about 1 month. Should be a Tuesday again, April 28th at 9:30 again. Fabien, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I can share a couple of slides if you want.
Yeah. Do you want the live stream to continue, or shall I stop it?
No, I'm fine with the live stream. There's nothing especially secret, what I'm going to say. Let me share. Oops.
Elias did just run, by the way.
Yeah.
I can share with him after, or he can watch the video afterwards.
Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be very quick. We're really happy in the team because after almost 2 years of mock-ups, user studies, evaluation, blah, 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 implementation, we've released version 5 of CORESE, but the version 5 of the GUI version of CORESE. So it's a standalone application that you can install on any platform. And we use it a lot for testing, debugging, but also for teaching because it has a visualization of the graph. And it's most of the courses we give are based on this GUI version. So just announcing that we are really happy with that. Big work on refactoring and also redesigning the interface. Second thing, for those going to ESWC, you can meet at least 2 persons from our teams. One in the research track, Guillaume Merouet, PhD student in the team. He will be presenting a paper called Link Prediction or Perdition. The point he's making is that the current state-of-the-art link prediction algorithms based on neuronal approaches, they are highly unstable in the sense that if you run them twice, even in the very, very, very same configuration, they will make different predictions for your links, which in terms of usage, if you think of actually completing a real industrial knowledge graph, is really asking questions. And the second paper should be presented at the doctoral consortium by Emily. So she's in 4th month. She just started the PhD. She's going to the PhD symposium, and she'll be talking about finding methods to address the problem of languages which have very low coverage in terms of knowledge graph, and how can we help bootstrap that, especially if we are to have a number of application, AI application and so on, conversational agent, you name it, RAG system that will be using knowledge graph. That means that if we don't do that, we will be increasing the digital divide for these languages. So she's going to be looking at that. So MetabolinkAI, it's a France-Switzerland project about integrating metabolic omics data in general, but metabolomics data across different laboratories. So we're looking at a number of different data sources, including genomics, proteomics, multi-omics in general, but also data that are produced locally in the laboratory, such as the result of a mass spectrometer, which is run locally. So there will be local data sets. So maybe at one point it would be interesting for Elias either to talk with some of these people if he needs data, or maybe at one of the plenary meetings we could invite him to explain what he's doing, because it may raise interest, especially the people who are not in our field may not be aware of these types of solution, and they may be interested. And the last point I wanted to talk, I don't want it to talk, I wanted to discuss really with you. So you probably followed the latest release at W3C. So concept, semantics, and entry pool for RDF 1.2 are going out in mid-April. Total RDF XML will follow next. Unless I'm mistaken, we have a first public working group of YAML-LD going out. And Seaboard LD is following. I don't know among all these which one you are following or which one you are interested in the group.
Yeah, I'm part of the JSON LD working group. I'm not following YAML LD and Seaboard LD that closely myself, but I'm going to follow up more closely on JSON LD itself. So if I understand correctly, JSON LD 1.2 is going to be released in the near future as well, but then the work is going to start quickly on JSON LD 1.3, so that at the end of the working group, 1.3 can be released as well.
And if I understood well, one of the key scenario for Seaboard LD is the version where you have JSON LD in Seaboard plus semantic compression, allowing you to have QR codes that include a JSON LD payload inside the QR code. So which in terms of applications such as IoT or any other deployment in physical environment could be an interesting opening. Link web storage, you know it by heart. ODRL rebooted is rebooting, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if you intend to participate in this one. And normally last Friday, we ended the vote on the data exchange working group, so we should get some news soon on this one for the next version of DCAT and so on. And that's it on my side. Cool.
So regarding RDF 1.2, does CORESE already implement it?
So the previous version of CORESE implemented prototyped it. In the new version, because we are cleaning absolutely everything, we did not include it. It's going to be in a future release. So the engine behind is able to do it, because the engine of CORESE is not really dependent on the triple structure or the semantics. It has the declarative rule engine, but we haven't. We decided that it was a higher priority to clean CORESE, and we are still deleting all parts of CORESE which have no reason to be here anymore. And then when we have a clean basis, we will do the 1.2 re-extension.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, I was talking with Pierre-Antoine because we had a tutorial last year at ISWC around RDF and Sparkle 1.2. And there the original plan was to also have a hands-on part of the tutorial. And the initial plan or the idea was to use CORESE to use as a basis for that tutorial. But then, yeah, Pierre-Antoine got me in touch with the main developer, but yeah, it would not have been finished in time for
No. We are planning the release of a CORESE core. We are planning it for June, and only then will we look at this kind of extension.
No. So maybe if we do the tutorial again at some later point in the future, we can use it.
Maybe, hopefully. Cool. Depends on how fast we are at cleaning the code.
And I'm just curious now, because yeah, around Communica we also have a lot of open source tooling, and the difficulty there is how to make this software sustainable. long term, how to do the funding and so on, because yeah, we do mainly research here. So how are you solving this issue on your end? Like, is CORESE fully open source?
CORESE is fully open source. It's free. It is going to be relicensed. We're going to change the license because the license that we showed at the time was a license that was pushed by France as an alternative to the American license, blah, blah, blah. And of course, it never flew. Mm-hmm. So we have a CCIL license, which is basically the equivalent of a LGPL v3, if I remember well. So it's non-contaminating, but open. Mm-hmm. It's fully open source and free. We should probably relicense it in June. For the maintenance, this is a big question. The first line of CORESE was written in 1999. It's a total of more than 40 man-year development software. And we have plenty of parts of the code which were done as experiments or extensions. We have a full programming language called LDScript, which is an extension of Sparkle into a functional language, things like that we don't know how to maintain because the developer is no longer with us. And so it's part of the work we're doing here, and we are pruning all the parts of the codes which we cannot maintain anymore. We are focusing on what is implementing the W3C standards, and then only then we will restart to extension. But it's been now 1.5 years just cleaning everything. Mm-hmm. We had a special funding for this one. But as soon as the funding runs out, my guess will be as good as yours. It's very hard. What also really changed is that the main developer, who was a senior researcher in the team, retired. And he had dedicated his entire research career to spend 50% of his time developing too. But now that he's gone, we have to find new strengths for that. And so for me, the question remains open. We are also working with two companies, to see if they would be happy to adopt CORESE at their core of the system and then invest in the development and maintenance of CORESE. This is the direction we're looking at.
No, okay. That's interesting. So the development currently is in, so where does it happen? Mostly in this new company that you founded,
no.
Or in your research?
In my research group, okay. Or more precisely, in a developer group that was created 1.5 years ago for the new release of CORESE. And we have a special group with a special funding working on that. Okay.
Yeah, I have many more questions, but maybe in the interest of time, we can leave it at that. Definitely regarding the project that you showed, yeah, I'll ask Elias to get in touch with you, because yeah, that would be interesting. But in any case, we also worked with the Swiss Institute of Bioinformatics in the past with another project, so we know them quite well. But yeah, the other partners you showed on the figure, not that well. But yeah, it would definitely be interesting if Elias could present his work in one of the presentation moments.
Yeah, I'm thinking we have a monthly meeting for the WP2 of this working group, which is about publishing and accessing linked data, which I think he would completely fit. So probably I would suggest.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, general comments, issues? No. Okay, then we will see each other again on April 28th. And thanks all for joining. See you next time. Bye-bye.